Geoff's Wonderland.
And welcome once again to the Wonderland, everyone. Episode 47, and the show is heading at breakneck speed towards its first anniversary. And so, to celebrate that, there's going to be champagne, there's going to be cake, there'll be balloons and streamers and lots of partying in general. That is, if anybody can be bothered with any of that stuff, which I doubt. But it's a nice thought, though, isn't it? Anyway, look, there's been quite a lot of discussion here recently on the Wonderland regarding the subject of cake. And the fact is, it's often quite difficult to make a cake without a food processor. Now, you might think that I'm talking about an electric food processor, such as a mixer, a blender, or some such thing, but if you are the cake maker, if that's even a word, and if it's not, it should be, then you yourself are, in effect, a food processor. On two legs, or four, if you happen to be a dog or a cat. Not that animal training has advanced to that point yet, as far as I'm aware. Look, in any case, I think it's time for us to put all of this in perspective. And the best way we can effectively do that here on the Wonderland is to throw ourselves fearlessly once again into the giant mixing bowl that is theory time.
Yo, you can't know what you can't know. I'm gonna tell you what I think I know. And I know what I know. This is what I know. Theory time.
And welcome to Theory Time. Yes, they say you are what you eat. And I truly wish I could cleverly say, yes, and you eat what you are. But unfortunately that wouldn't make any sense, so I'm not going to say that. But yes, what I mentioned a moment ago is true. Every time you make a cake or a pie or anything involving the combination of several different ingredients which you've chopped up or whisked or ground down to a suitable extent, you have essentially become a food processor, which is actually par for the course given that we're addicted to processing anything we can find, including information. But let's not digress. I'm talking here about food. We process the crap out of it on a regular basis, unlike other species which clearly can't be bothered. They just eat stuff, as is. End of story. See, initially, food processing was done for reasons of convenience when it came to selling certain types of comestibles to preserve them for long periods, and I guess also to make them easy to package. But look, now it's gotten ridiculous. These days, we routinely process the crap out of things in our own homes for no good reason that I can figure out, and these are things that simply do not need processing. Okay? Let me give you an example. Why go to the trouble of drying fruit and chopping it all up to put in a cake full of the stuff when you could just eat the fruit when it was fresh? Much simpler, less time-consuming and labour-intensive, and certainly a hell of a lot better for you. There is another side to this, though. The fact is that food processing is also performed in an effort to disguise horrible things which we'd normally never dream of putting in our mouths in such a way that we find them actually palatable. And that, of course, makes perfect sense. Another thing I've contemplated is that when you look at the ingredients of, okay, let's say a cake, well, okay, what do you got? You got flour, you got sugar, eggs, butter, maybe, I don't know, chocolate, fruit, cream, etc., etc., etc. You also need to expose that mixture of things to a high temperature for a certain period of time in order to make it edible, right? So I've contemplated the possibility of simply consuming all the raw ingredients and then jumping up and down a lot and then sitting in a very hot sauna for a couple of hours. And the effect should be exactly the same as having cooked and eaten an entire cake. The only thing is, of course, that you'd probably need your stomach pumped afterwards. But at least you will have saved time on the cooking and washing up. You'll have conserved water, prevented toxic detergents from going into the ecosystem, and given the local ambulance service and hospital staff something to do. So, if you don't feel good, at least you can feel good about yourself. And I'd call that another Wonderland win.
This is what I know. Theory time.
And that's it for Theory Time. And never let it be said that we here on the Wonderland don't spend enough time talking about food. And speaking of food, somebody once said that music was the food of love, or something. And if that's true, the second course is on its way in our regular Song of the Day segment, which we now find ourselves in. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am actually a full-time musician and singer-songwriter, and when I conceived of the idea of the Wonderland, I decided that I would include one of my own musical creations, released as either a single or an album track, as part of the show's format. Now, given that to date I've recorded 6 albums and a bunch of singles, I figured that I'd, have enough material to keep me going for at least a few seasons of the Wonderland, and so far so good. Anyway, today's Song of the Day is an excerpt from a track on my very first album, The Path, recorded in Australia and released on CD back in 1993. So yes, it's a blast from the past, and it's called See You Again.
I wanna see you again, 'cause I'm not feeling strong. If I have to spend another night in your eyes, I just don't know where it will end. Oh no. Last night we danced inside a dream. Stupid words fell down from my mouth. I did not want to say goodbye to you then, but I hope that I will see you again. See you again. See you again. Frozen by the past, frightened by the future, frozen by your voice in my head, frightened by you, frightened by me, frightened by the things that nobody said.
Now, if you were to ask me what the lyric is about, I would have to say that it's about somebody that I've completely forgotten.
Maybe it was all in my mind. Maybe you were just being kind.
I was just being kind.
And I looked at the ring on your finger, and I wished it was mine. Yes, I wished you were mine.
Which is probably just as well.
See you again. Frozen by the past, frightened by the future, frozen by your voice in my head. Yes, I'm frightened by you, I'm frightened by me, frightened by the things that nobody said. Hope I see you again.
And there it is, See You Again, which of course is a way of saying goodbye, which we are now doing to that song. But if you would like to check out the rest of that song or any of my back catalogue, as it were, you can do that by going directly to www.geoffhealy.com, where you can also download or share any or all of the songs absolutely free. Or you can check them out by checking in to any of your favourite music streaming services, including YouTube. Now, we here at the Wonderland like to think that the show has, pretty much something for everyone. And with that kind of wishful thinking in mind, it's now time for the idiotic improv that is...
Good Times with Big Geoff
and Little Kev.
Hey, Geoff, here we are.
We are here again, Kev. Good times, Kev. Good times. Great times.
It's always good times.
Good times, man.
Yeah, man.
That's all we want. Just good times. No bad times.
Speaking of good times, Geoff, I don't know if you've realized, you can look at me right now and you say, Kevin, you've devolved.
Devolved?
Yeah, devolved, yeah.
Devolved.
The dress code has gone... It's gone to shit.
Well,
let's face it.
Okay, you're talking about the whole COVID thing and, people, not feeling the need to keep themselves special.
Yeah, even if you look at CNN, people were Zooming segments for the show, and they're totally underdressed. Like, what's going on?
Well, I guess, depending on what's going on, dress is probably the last thing that we think of as being important, which in some ways I agree with. However, it's also a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Imagine if like a CEO came into his boardroom dressed in, I don't know, pajamas, maybe Speedos. He's ready to go for a swim after work,
or a thong and a flip flop.
That thong,
a flip flop,
thong,
thong. A flip flop, not two flip flops.
I see.
Flip flop.
You mean that's not a thong. The thong goes right up the.
I'm trying to confuse you.
You are confusing me. Yes.
Yeah, folks. For those of you who don't know, in Australia, we refer to what Americans would call flip-flops as thongs. That's what we call them.
That's right. Actually, I think we do in Canada, but only certain parts of Canada, like the really nerdy parts of Canada.
Where they can only afford to wear thongs.
Exactly. Both on their private parts and on their...
But obviously it's not the same thong.
Further appendages.
If you try to wear an Australian thong on your appendage, then, you may be out for some injury.
Thong is a really weird... It's a really weird word. It sounds like you have like somebody with a lisp. How would they pronounce that?
Well, they might say song.
Thong.
No, they'd say song.
They would say thong.
No, song.
Thong.
Song.
Thong.
Song.
Thong.
Song. Thong. What sort of thing is that? Song. Thong. Song.
That's a nice thong.
A thong song. It's not a song.
That's wrong.
No, but I mean,
there's nothing wrong with people.
No, there's nothing. No, there's nothing wrong with it. But the thing is, I like to think in terms of opposites. As you know, Kevin, if someone is saying thong because they cannot say song, then what they mean is thong, not song. Does that make sense? No, song, not thong.
I don't know if it makes sense. But if you're talking about opposites, let's talk about like Big Jeff and Little Kev.
Let's talk about that. Well, how much?
It's still bothering me.
It's still bothering you, isn't it?
It is. I don't know why, but
it was meant to bother you, Kev. So I would call that a win. That's a Wonderland win.
That's a Wonderland win.
No,
a Wonder World.
A Wonder World.
It's only you're not a world yet.
Not
only
yet.
a Wonderland.
The Wonder World.
Wonderland.
We're planning to expand, folks. We are planning to move into other countries, take them over by force, and soon it will be called the Wonder World.
Yeah, because originally, it was Disneyland.
It was.
And now it's Disney World.
What's next? Disney Universe?
Disneyverse.
Yeah, Disneyverse. No, that's very...
Is that good or
verse,
is that good?
Yeah, no, verse. My mum
That is good.
Verse,
Disneyverse.
like poetry.
Disneyverse. But getting back to the underdressing, I mean, here I am. I'm in swimmers.
Well, you are in swimmers
that's wrong.
and a t-shirt. Well, it's not for... Okay, let's put it in context.
Okay.
You go to the lake, you have a bit of a swim, it's your day off, you're not working. So I think what we're wearing right now, which is basically t-shirts and swimmers, is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. However, I do understand what you're getting at. Like, for a CEO to dress in swimmers and a t-shirt, you could say, who cares? Who gives a rat's? Great. But your point, Kevin, is...
My point is this, Geoff. T-shirts are okay, but for instance, if what's with the short sleeve shirt?
Well,
where does that fall? Well, because like to be properly dressed, I'll give you an example. If I suddenly show up in a shirt, people go, "Oh my God, you're dressed up." I'm thinking it's just a shirt.
Well, exactly, it's a shirt, but it's a shirt with buttons on it, right?
That's what shirts have, yeah.
Yeah, well, a t-shirt is still a shirt.
Yeah, but it's a t-shirt.
But the word shirt is in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so T is the only difference. It's like...
If there was no R in shirt, what would it be?
I can't say it. It's a family show.
Is it a
No, it's not a children's show. I'm
not.
sorry. No,
It would be a T-shirt.
Well, yeah, you're right.
If you have buttons, that should be okay as well. But that's also not...
Well, here's the thing, Kev. I reckon that, a shirt with buttons is lovely. With short sleeves... it falls into an interesting area because on one hand, it's looking a bit recreational. On the other hand, it's attempting to look sophisticated. It's like, I'm not a t-shirt. Look, I'm not a t-shirt. I got buttons, but I'm also not a formal shirt because, hey, guess what? No sleeves.
And you know what that means, Geoff?
What does that mean, Kev?
Good times with Big Jeff
and Little Kev. And Big Geoff and Little Kev will be back with more good times in 2 weeks' time to delve once again into their catalogue of important topics. Speaking of catalogues, I want to talk a bit about a controversial issue which is almost certainly weighing heavily on the minds of many of you. Yes, I'm talking about junk mail. And you know, the best place to talk about anything involving junk is, of course,
Geoff's thought of the day.
I was thinking about something. I think it was the thought of the day. I think it was the thought of the day.
Welcome to Thought of the Day. Now, very few people will admit to liking junk mail. Most of us will, in fact, complain about it regularly, and yet it remains very much a part of our lives and something we expect to see and something we will look at, even if we think we don't want to. This, of course, has to do with 4 things. 1, it's free. 2, it's delivered. 3, it can relieve extreme cases of boredom. And 4, it caters directly to the powerful human instinct to never miss out on a bargain. Now, certain people in my household, who shall remain nameless, will think nothing of driving 30 kilometres to save 30% on extra large jars of Nutella. Then again, someone else in my household, who shall also remain nameless, consumes Nutella at a rate only slightly south of the speed of light. So, okay, supermarket, well played. A few months ago, we did actually put one of those no junk mail stickers on the letterbox. But today, an absent-minded junk mail distribution person nonetheless delivered a bunch of these forbidden publications anyway, at which point we had to bring them in and start leafing through them, pointlessly cursing it and ourselves as we did so. So why do we do it? Why do we claim to despise something that we seem to actually want? Because we're secretly embarrassed about wanting it and think our expressions of disapproval for its existence will serve as a diversion, which it never does. Furthermore, we'll drive many miles to save a few cents or a few bucks on just about anything, and for that feeling that we've somehow saved money, even though we probably spent money to do so, and contributed to ecological disaster by tacitly approving the destruction of trees to create paper to print the junk mail on. But it's even more than that, I reckon. For as long as I can remember, there has been junk mail. Whether it's been folded into the pages of the local paper, shoved into the mailbox, or under the windscreen of your car at, yes, that's right, the local supermarket. Yep, junk mail will, like junk food, be with us until the end of days. Not because it's a good idea, but because we're used to it, and we're comfortable with it, whether we want to admit it or not. Can you pass the electronics specials? Yep.
I think it was the thought of the day.
Well, that's it for Thought of the Day, and of course, that's it also for today's episode. Thank you very, very much for joining me, people. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks also to my good buddy Kevin Owen McDonald Duck, or whatever his bloody name is this week, for once again appearing as Little Kev. And if you liked the show, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts if you happen to be there, preferably a good one. And if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe, and that way you'll get a heads up the next time there's an episode released, which of course is every Friday. Well, that's it. I'm out of here, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Don't do anything that the neighbours can do better. And I will see you back here next Friday, bright and early, for another serving of weird wisdom on The Wonderland.
Gotta get back to Geoff's Wonderland. Gotta come back to the Wonderland. Geoff's